Jason Roth, agronomist with Winfield United. Wanted to walk you through a different herbicide trial that we did here, looking at volunteer corn control with Section 3 and some different components. So the first thing we're seeing here is Section 3 applied at a 3-ounce rate, but applied at 10 gallon per acre. And we made these applications with a TTI nozzle because we're also going to look at Extend added in here in a little bit. So this was 10 gallon per acre, and you can see at that low spray volume, we did not get very good control. This was Section 3 with an oil, Superb HC. So we had the oil right, but we didn't have very good spray volume for good coverage. When we come over to this next plot, we shifted to 20 gallon per acre just to kind of show you the extremes. And at 20 gallon per acre, you see much better control of that volunteer corn because we have better coverage because of the higher spray volume. We're going to shift to our next plot, and we change things up here just a little bit. Here we had the Section 3 for volunteer corn control, but we also added glyphosate, and with that glyphosate, a water conditioner. Now, sometimes with glyphosate in the tank or Liberty in the tank, for example, guys will say, hey, I got a water conditioner, that's added surfactant. I've got my glyphosate or Liberty, that's added surfactant. I'm not going to put a crop oil in because I'm afraid it might burn, and so I'm taking it out of the tank. Now we're applying at 15 gallon per acre because that's more of a standard rate. 15 gallon per acre with Roundup and water conditioner in the tank, but no oil. What happened to our control? Not so pretty. We come over to the next plot. We've kept the tank mix the same, except we've added oil. And now with that oil addition, we see much better control of that corn. Now I mentioned dicamba earlier. We're going to show 2 more plots where we've added dicamba to the mix. Now what do we know about dicamba is that it's antagonistic to our grass-killing herbicides like Section 3. When we add dicamba into the tank mix of Section 3 at 3 ounces with oil, what happened? We see reduced control compared to the one that we were just at. We had a step down in control due to the antagonism from that dicamba herbicide. So what do? Well, we have to up our rate of grass killer, which is what we did here. We increased our rate of Section 3 from 3 ounces to 6 ounces. And what we saw is we overcame that antagonism and we were successful in controlling our volunteer corn. We've changed things up here now and going away from that dicamba system where we had that TTI tip and that dicamba added in later on. Now we're going to look at an Enlist type system. So we're going to have different nozzles. We're going to have the AIXR nozzle. We're also going to enter in some different water conditioners because we can have ammonium sulfate now mixed in our tank, which is going to help us with glyphosate. It's also going to help us with clethodim, Section 3 control. But starting out here, all we have is Section 3. We have Section 3 applied with oil, and we have it at a 10 gallon per acre rate. 10 gallon per acre spray volume, we can see not great control from that Section 3. It's just not enough spray volume. When we come to this next plot here, we have Section 3 at 20 gallon per acre. We can see we were much better at that 20 gallon per acre application and cleaning up some of that corn. So the difference in spray volume. Now we jump to our next plot. This is 15 gallon per acre, and this is with glyphosate added into the mixture. Now again, just like before, people adding glyphosate, they say, hey, I'm gonna have a water conditioner, I'm gonna have surfactant there, I'm gonna have surfactant in my glyphosate or my Liberty, I might pull out the oil. Now in this case, we actually saw pretty good control even without that oil, better than what we had in the past plot, but there's some key differences, right? One of the key differences, we have a better spray tip now, so we're going to have better coverage with that AIXR tip than we had with the TTI. The other major difference is our water conditioner. We have ammonium sulfate in the tank now. Previously, we didn't have the ammonium sulfate, so that's going to help us. But we still do not make the recommendation to leave out the oil. We generally want oil in the tank mix because it helps our clethodim perform. So we come over to the next plot, which is 15 gallon per acre with oil added. We have a little bit better control. Obviously this plot's a little far gone, but now we're going to jump to our last 2 plots where we added in the auxin chemistry, those products that can be antagonistic. And what do we see here from that Enlist being added in? We see maybe a little bit detrimental in control, but we think about how that compared to our previous plot where we added dicamba, we see that the addition of the 2,4-D did not seem as detrimental as the addition of the dicamba was previously. Again, why might that be? Because we have a better overall spray package. We got a better spray tip, and we've got ammonium sulfate in the tank, and of course we have that oil. So then we come to this last plot where we added additional section 3 to overcome the antagonism. And you can see, whereas before we had a few stragglers due to that herbicide antagonism, now when we elevated our rate of section 3, we're clean all the way through. Got ammonium sulfate in the tank, got Superb HC in the tank, we got that elevated rate of section 3 to overcome our antagonism. We controlled our corn very successfully. We're going to look now at one more variation, and this is the addition of Fusilade as our grass or volunteer corn control killer. The last few years, we maybe have had some trouble with controlling volunteer corn, especially with that antagonism and that poor coverage from the TTI nozzle. So some guys were going to switch to Fusilade, especially in that dicamba system, to see if that could help them with their volunteer corn control. So here we have Fusilade applied with oil at 10 gallon per acre. And son of a gun, you know what? We do see Fusilade at 10 gallon per acre is pretty good in controlling volunteer corn. This was at 4 ounces, and it certainly did do better than the section 3. When we come over to the 20 gallon per acre, we see the 20 gallon per acre with Fusilade about the same as the 10 gallon per acre. Equal performance, looking really good. We come over now to the next plot where we add Roundup into the tank. So we're thinking glyphosate added. So we're gonna have our water conditioner, our Class Act NG with ammonium sulfate in the tank, because this is gonna be setting up for an Enlist system. So we've got our water conditioner, our ammonium sulfate, that Fusilade still performing really, really well. Now we come over to our next plot. That was Fusilade without oil. Now we have Fusilade with oil, and you see, hey, there's really no difference. In this case, Fusilade did well with both cases. But what's really insightful is what we see next. And what we see next is when we add the Enlist 1, the 2,4-D, into the tank mix. 4 ounces of Fusilade, Class Act NG water conditioner with ammonium sulfate, Superb HC in the tank. But my Fusilade did not control my volunteer corn. That herbicide antagonism from the 2,4-D is very apparent with Fusilade. So the last plot, we go from a 4 ounce rate of Fusilade. We try to overcome that antagonism. We ran a 6 ounce rate of Fusilade with the Enlist 1, with the Class Act NG for ammonium sulfate, and with Superb HC. And what do we see? We still struggled to control this corn with 6 ounces of Fusilade. So what are a couple takeaways from this? Well, one of the takeaways is it appears that Fusilade may be antagonized more by 2,4-D than section 3 was. The other thing is that if we're going to use Fusilade, that's okay, but if we think about our corn height and how large the corn is, that 6 ounce rate that we jumped to wasn't enough, and we're probably going to have to use an 8 ounce or a 10 ounce rate of Fusilade, especially to overcome that Enlist 1 2,4-D antagonism. So very helpful stuff to learn here at the plot. Hope you found that interesting and helpful.